All right, here we go. Back at you again. Here we are. Josh Mason, Matt Flanagan. We're here at the 2 Down, 1 Over podcast with a special guest, Mia Hopkins, the great Harlem Globetrotter. Huh? What's up, Mia?
What's up? How you guys doing?
Yeah.
How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I know you've been around the world, right? Now you're taking a little break.
Little Christmas break, and then we got little Christmas tour.
Yes.
Up until New Year's Eve.
Nice. We appreciate you stopping through. You know, me and Matt love what we do here, and it's great to have guests like yourself on this show. Okay.
Well, thank you.
So let's dive right in. Mia, listen, I've heard your story, and we know each other. So, I mean, it's amazing. And what I love most about it is the fact that you've been knocked down so many times. Like, that's the beauty of your story, is because you didn't just get it right the first time, or you didn't get it right the second time, or the third or the fourth, right? Like, you've been knocked down, and this is exactly what this podcast is about and what we do as far as coaching and mentoring. We want to inspire and motivate. So your story just rings bells, the fact of how you get knocked down and you keep getting back up, and then you finally, like, hit the buzzer. Like, it's amazing, yeah. Right? And hats off to you and the flowers to you, because I love your perseverance, you know, and you know, our motto is get your mind right. So obviously you got your mind right too, right? In the same boat. But talk to us a little bit about, I would say, the transition. You know what? Let's take it from here. Let's tell us your story on the basketball end of, like, hey, you started as a kid, you know, where you're from, high school, go to college, and all that.
Okay. So I was born in Pittston. My grandpa was a coach for GAR. So I was pretty much born into basketball. Like, I was 2 years old with a ball in my hands. And then growing up, I just always worked out in the driveway, always played with the boys. And by the time, you know, I got to high school, I was cooking everybody, because I was just, you know, playing so much on my own that, like, girls my age, it was like slow motion almost. Right. So that was just easy. Like, it was just have fun. And then once I got to college, we'll talk about this too, about the shooting thing. But once I got to college, I had to become a shooting guard. So I went from being like a forward in high school, and then I went D1. Right. So they're like, all right, you're a shooting guard.
Monmouth, right?
Yeah, Monmouth. Yep. So I had a summer really to develop a 3-point shot, because I wasn't even really shooting threes in high school. And so I transferred to Bloomsburg and then Westchester. So I have a very untraditional
100%.
path.
100%.
So
that's what makes it beautiful.
Yeah,
right?
But like during the time, it seems very chaotic. Sure. And so I went to Westchester. We ended up winning 18 games in a row my senior year. So everything came to fruition for my college career. And then from there, I decided I was going to play overseas. Mind you, I have no idea how I'm going to make this happen. Right. But I just start voicing it. I start saying it. And I did this challenge on Instagram. Some girl saw it, invited me to play in France in this exposure event. At this point, I don't have any money, though, because, you know, I'm fresh, just graduating college.
Right.
Like, I don't have $1,000 to just throw around to go to France. So my grandpa, he lent me the money. I went to the event. I got just enough film. I averaged probably like 12 and 10. Okay. Got just enough film to put together like a baby highlight reel where I could just blast out to coaches, because I didn't have an agent.
Yes.
So I did everything on my own. So it was like cold emailing coaches from Eurobasket.com.
Yeah, guerrilla marketing. Which is on it.
Yeah. So I got one offer, and it was to the Czech Republic, and it was for very little money, and it was super sketch. But I decided I'm going. And I went there, and I made a game-winning shot, and the next day I got fired.
Bam.
So,
yeah. So, I mean, like, I'm going to just pause right there, because you finally get to overseas. Mm-hmm. You finally get an opportunity to play. You do something great that all basketball players want to do, is hit a buzzer beater, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you get fired.
Got fired.
Like the next day.
Yep.
So, all right, go ahead.
Woke up to the email. I'm just like, you know, and I felt safe in that moment, because I'm like, you know I did the right thing, and this is just like some kind of test or something.
Right.
So my mom obviously was like, all right, come home. And I was like, I'm not coming home, Mom. I'm staying here. I'm going to figure it out. Ended up crashing in Poland for a bit with a friend, and then I just went back to the drawing board, started reaching out to coaches again, same old. And I actually got a job rather quickly in Ireland, because I was already in Europe. So I had that, you know, over more
right
people.
There, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So really they just had to fly me over to Ireland. Went there, played a year there, and I decided then, like, I think that's when the WNBA thing started, like, really taking over, and I was like, I want to level up, you know, like, I don't want to play in Ireland forever.
Right.
So I decided I was going to get on a better team in Europe, and so I tried out for a team in Greece, got the job, and then I got really bad tendonitis.
Injuries, man.
Yeah, tendonitis in the Achilles.
Oh, yeah. And
so couldn't run, couldn't jump.
Right.
And I'm an athletic player, so, like, that really hurt my game.
Sure.
So I got sent home, and that was just really hard because it was like, who am I?
Now, you came back home to the U.S. at that point?
Yeah, I was back in Pittston.
Yeah.
And, you know, everyone's like,
now,
well, what are you going to do?
At this point?
Probably like 23, 24.
Okay. All right.
24, I think. Maybe 23. I'm not sure. But, so I was pretty young, but I was like, you know, back here, I wasn't really a pro actively. So I'm like, what am I going to do? Everyone's like, are you going to get a job? You know, and I'm like, no. And so I just did, you know, some freelance work. I walked dogs. I did some Uber. I did some DoorDash, just anything to keep afloat, make some money, and pay for my workouts and my physical therapy at the time to get my ankles right. Sure. And then I planned to go to Brazil. Actually, I got my passport and everything because it would be easy for me to get on a team there because I got my citizenship. Okay. And that's when COVID happened.
So shut it all down.
Shut it all down. I'm like, no, man, I'm stuck here.
Right.
So then I decided I wanted to reach out to WNBA agents because I'm sitting here stuck at home, watching the WNBA, training, doing Tim Grover's at-home workouts.
Tim Grover. Michael Jordan's training.
Yeah. I'm
like,
exactly. I'm like, you know, just watching these games, like feeling that I could be out there. So I reached out to WNBA agents, got linked with someone. She was trying to send me to Iran. I didn't go there. And I was like, do you have any other opportunities? Anything? She's like, you can go to Texas and train with this guy named Tim Springer. He was a trainer for the Spurs. So I was like, all right. So I drove my car to Texas. Everyone at this point also thinks I'm like a psychopath. Sure. Like, why are you driving to Texas? So I just packed my car, drive to Texas, train with this guy for 2 months, and then I had the WNBA combine, like the moment we've been waiting for. Right. And I knew I did my part. Like, I was in the gym 8 hours a day, like taking breaks every single day, gave up my social life, everything. So
time to perform now.
Yeah. And also I was very spiritual with it too. You know, I felt me and God were here with it and it was going to happen. Day of the tryout, there's flow, and then there's the opposite of flow. I was the opposite of flow. And I couldn't get out of it. Jeez. I could not get out of it. And just a funk. And
the worst time to show up.
Worst day for that to happen. Yeah. It was a one-day event. So it was more frustrating too because I felt I was the best one there, and I just wasn't showing it at all. Like, so that was a huge L for me, and I took it on the chin, and I'm like, well, what do I do now? Because, again, we're back to the drawing board. Like, who am I? Yep. And from there, I decided to go back to Texas and play on this minor league team, and my first game was in Oklahoma, dove on the ball on the ground, and someone just fell on me, freak accident, and completely dislodges my shooting arm. So 3rd-degree labrum tear, completely torn, arm hanging off. The crowd's in horror. I'm like, come on now.
Right? Crazy, dude.
So I ended up having to come back here to find out, you know, MRI results. Do I need surgery? What's going to happen? People are saying this could be it. I might not be able to shoot. Like, this is my shooting arm. So find out I did not need the surgery because my ligaments were attacked, but it was recommended, highly recommended. And I was like, well, I'm 26. I'm trying to make it now. Like, and I decided, you know, I'm going to just PT my way back. So slow baby movements before I even went to the PT. By the time I got to PT, he's like, I don't even believe that you have this injury. Right. And so I decided I was, you know, ready to go back to Texas to keep training with Tim, obviously not playing because this crazy thing just happened. But at that point, I was also like tapped out financially. So I went back to Texas and I could barely do anything, but I didn't have a lot of money and I was staying with my friend. She was on my team and I was staying on her couch at the time. So this is like the rags to riches part.
Love it.
And at that time, Isaiah Walker calls me on the phone, super random, from high school, AAU coach. And he calls me and he's like, yo, man, I got you a tryout with the Harlem Globetrotters. And I'm like, what? Like, he knew I was hurt too. I'm like, can you tell them I'm hurt? Can we reschedule? Like, and he's like, no. He's like, they're flying you out, so get ready. I'm like, all right.
Now, not to cut you off. So at this moment, when you hear Harlem Globetrotters, like, that's not even in the wheel, right? Like,
right.
That wasn't even, you're like, wait a second. Like, that's outside. So I could imagine your thought process there is really, it wasn't valuable to you at that point,
I'm
right?
like, what? Left field. Out of the sky. Like, where did this come from? You know, because I was trying so hard and I had everything lined up over here, and then it was just like out of nowhere. Right. And that goes to, you know, God works in super mysterious ways, but when he makes it known that he's there, like, you know, and you're like, whoa.
This is it.
So, yeah, that happened, and I went to the tryout. Obviously, I was nervous because I wasn't 100% at all. And I was telling him the whole time, like, hit him up, like, yo, you need to tell him I'm not playing, like, pick up, I'll shoot, but I'm not going to be playing with the guys and blah, blah, blah. So I get there, I'm the only girl, and from the beginning, just had the best tryout ever. Like, was making every shot.
It's meant to be.
So by the time, at the very end, when we are going to play pickup, I'm cooking. Like, I did one move, got the guy in the air, he fell out of bounds. And this isn't the show. This is just real basketball. I just did this move. I don't even know what move it is, but I just do it all the time. And he just jumped out of bounds, and I just laid it up. I was like, from there, I was like, don't do anything else. Just chill, just cruise, just coast. Yeah, so that was it. And I just knew, like, people were like, did you make it? I'm like, I didn't get the paper yet, but I know I made it.
Right. Man, that's crazy. And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
This is what you've been doing.
Mighty has been born.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man.
So the story itself, it's amazing. And
thank you.
We had met sometime after COVID.
Yeah.
Started training with us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting to know you, and like, I'm thinking you already made it by your confidence. And we just did an episode on confidence, and it was amazing because, like, I'm getting to know you, and I'm like, I'm talking to you, and you're telling me about all these failures, and I'm like waiting for, like, wait, aren't you like, because I'm thinking you're in, but your mindset was you were gonna make it, and that was it, and this is what you were like, felt like you were destined for. So we're training, and you're telling me about all these failures, and then you and for me, I'm thinking, like, that's a major blow, but you just said, like, I knew I did the right thing. I knew I did the right thing. So it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm dead broke. I'm still gonna go down there. I'm gonna find a way to do this.
Yeah.
So, like, getting to know you towards the end, and this is like post-COVID sometime. Like,
right.
I can't, like, I know Tim Springer, and that you were going to Texas and stuff, and we were putting a little bit of work in here, but talk about your mindset as far as your journey, because I look at you and it's all about perseverance. There's and that's like the main message that I think, like, I hear this because you never gave up, and you just felt like this is your purpose. And now, like, I go to see you at the Pittston Library, and there's like 20 young girls that are asking for autographs, and that you can tell their lives are like, they're just in awe, and you've changed their lives, and you have this pedestal, and it's amazing. But like, talk a little bit about that mindset where it was like, not, you're not going to give up. You're just going to do it,
For sure. So also looking back now, I just see how much I enjoyed the journey. Right. I enjoyed the grind. I love the grind.
Yeah.
Like, being back here, I'm like I told you earlier, I'm in the gym 3 hours. It's not enough.
They say embrace the grind, right?
Yeah.
The thing is embrace it,
it's true.
Yeah.
And I loved that time where I was here, but at the time I was kind of chasing something. But now looking back, I'm like, I loved that.
Yes.
Like, early morning workout, then I'd come here, then I would have, like, free time for lunch, whatever, and then I would go back to the gym, and then I'd be training kids all night. But I loved that. Yep. And now looking back, I'm just like, wow. But yeah, so I think it's really important to, if you're not where you want to be yet, to enjoy it, like, enjoy the grind, because it's all a part of you.
Right. Yeah. It shapes you.
Yes.
Right? It shapes you. And I think like you said, the story's great, and you got knocked down so many times. But, you know, it's at one point, like, I feel like you had to doubt yourself at one point. Like, there was a moment where you get cut, you know, after you make the buzzer beater, you know, even in college when you had to transfer a couple times.
Right.
Like, mentally, you know, typical people, athletes, they're going to start to doubt and say, listen, maybe this isn't for me. Like, did that cross your mind at all?
I don't think it was ever, this isn't for me. It was more just taking the L.
Yeah.
And it was like an unknown amount of time that I was going to be in this sulk of misery of, you know, like taking this L. But I always knew that there would be a bounce back. Yes. It's just a matter of when. And that's always how it's been with basketball for me. Like, I don't think I've ever thought I'm quitting. You know, when I was playing softball, I'm like, that's it. You know, in 8th grade, I'm like, I'm not playing this game anymore. Like, I knew I wasn't going to play softball anymore. But with basketball, I never thought it was ever over. But I have had doubts.
Sure. Yeah, even like, so you having those doubts, but like regardless, you had a vision. You knew this is what I want. I don't care how long it takes.
Yeah.
I don't care what happens to me at this point. Something's going to give, and I'm just going to ride this out.
Yeah.
Right? And that, I mean, that's a lesson for our listeners and anybody that's out there. Like, if you want something that bad, right, like, you stick to the game. It doesn't matter what happens in all the downfalls, like, stick to the plan, because eventually, and it may take multiple tries.
Years.
Yes, right? Stick to the game. And I could relate with that, and I'm sure you could too, Maddie. It's the same thing when we started the gym. It was the same process of, like, doubts and you know, it wasn't moving the way you wanted to move, and people were hating, and all that energy was out there. But I knew what I wanted. Like, I knew the vision, so it didn't matter to me if I was hitting these roadblocks. Right? It was just like, I'm still rocking because I know what I want. Yeah. Right? So
exactly.
I appreciate that.
Well, even with training too, I feel like you just listen to your body. You're thinking, you know, I think my body needs this. And because I remember having conversations with you about, like, hey, what did you do? And you're just like, well, I would just kind of visualize this and do this. And then, you know, I said, Mia, take me through a workout. And we ran up this hill. We ran up this giant hill, but she's sprinting up the hill. And it was like, and it was amazing because you just found a way to do this stuff. And you didn't really have organized training, like strength and conditioning training growing up. You just kind of, you did it. You played with the boys and you just kind of found a way.
Yeah.
And you just, continue to challenge yourself. And like, because I always say, like, I look back when I was young and I did everything wrong, but I worked hard.
Yeah.
I worked really hard.
Right.
And like, I feel like you kind of did that a little bit better than I did. You know what I'm saying? And another thing that we were just talking about this before, how adaptable you've been on your career. Talk about high school. You had 1 or 2 3-point shots.
2
that you made, right? Two 3-point shots you made. 1,000-point score. Okay. Mentally, just a very tough player. Your job now is to shoot threes and make threes.
And force.
You're a shooter.
And force.
Right. Okay. And force. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And force. So you even go and you trained with Tim Springer, and changes your shot.
Yeah.
Okay. You change your jump shot. And it didn't work right away, but you kind of stuck with that.
Yeah.
And now, like, I see you at schools now, and you're hitting them from half court, and it looks pretty easy. Talk a little bit about that journey, about being adaptable a little bit.
Okay. So shooting, I feel, like you said, has just evolved so much, and it's continuing to evolve over time. But when I was in high school, people didn't really shoot threes like that. Like, now everybody shoots threes. Everyone.
1 through 5.
Yeah.
1 through
anybody.
8. 1 through 8.
Yeah.
Everybody.
So, but when I was in high school, I was like a 4, and we didn't really shoot threes like that. And my game was get a bucket. Like, it didn't matter if it was pretty or ugly, or if there's 3 people on me, I'm still going to score. And I was just that type of player. Like, I was just immensely tough. You didn't want to come see me. You didn't want to have to guard me.
Right.
Like, it was a job if you had to guard me. And I was like that every single night.
Right.
And that's just, I've had that mental toughness all along. And I think I was just a savage, really. Yeah. Like, that's just who I am at core. That's just who I am. And so when I went to Monmouth, like I said, I had a summer to get in guard shape and make threes. Right. And I did that. And I think it's just from repetition, practicing. And then once I got there, I had a shooting gun. So I just spent so much time on that. And now I'm really just locked in. Like, I've always just wanted to be a great shooter. I have it in my room. I'm the greatest shooter, you know, and I have this brand, and Deadeye Shooter is part of it. So I'm just becoming more and more of this as it goes on, and then I'm backing it up with the repetition behind it.
Yep. And you know, our last episode was confidence. Believing in yourself. And like, I see that 100%.
Oh my goodness!
Like, you believe in yourself. And
have to.
You have to, right? Because who else is?
Exactly.
Right? And that's the only way you can make things happen, if you believe in yourself. So let's talk to the youth, the generation right now. So, Mia, this generation is growing up in the social media aspect, so they see everything great. Right? They see all the highlights. They see all the made shots. They see all the glitz and glam of everything. And really don't see the grind or the struggle or the roadblocks. And mental illness, depression, things like that come about with these kids because they don't know how to handle it, right? They don't know how to handle the failure. They don't know how to handle these roadblocks, these setbacks. And you just said it, like, hey, mental toughness, that's my core. And I understand that. But what advice or suggestions would you have to these young athletes? Because they're facing this, but a lot of them take it the other way. Yeah. Right?
So I think you got to take failure, quote unquote failure, temporary defeat, whatever it is, as a lesson. Like, something is not going your way, but it's really showing you, you know, it might point out your flaws. Like, I remember when I was at the WNBA combine, someone said, you can't dribble, she can't dribble. And I've heard that before. Yeah. Obviously, I'm a good player, so, I mean, I'm not going to let that destroy who I am as a basketball player, but I'm going to work on my handle. Like, that is your evidence. That's your optimization data. Like, I need to get better at this. So, I mean, you could sit in your room and cry, which is fine. Cry it out. But then wake up tomorrow and be charged up and ready to go. Right. So I think it's really what you do with the haters or when things don't go your way. Like, how do you respond?
Which was the episode we did, huh?
Yeah, I know. I love it. We're tying it all together.
You're knocking all the nuggets down that we have, and you're 100% right. How you respond is the difference. And when you say that, it's the kids. You're right. They fall into these pits, and it's worry me, and I'm not good enough or anything like that. And it's a mental space, right? Really, where you got to put yourself at. And I think not everyone's built like that. So it's like, hey, how do you tell the person that's not built like that? Like, what's a strategy? What's a tip that you would kind of advise for a kid that's not built like that?
I think if you keep going, you'll start to see progress in a way. Like, you know, if it's, you know, I didn't make a three-pointer today or whatever it is, if you keep at it, like you're still working behind the scenes and you're still believing as best you could, even though people may be saying you're not a good three-point shooter, but you're still doing those things, eventually, like everything else, something's got to give. Like, if you're really putting in the work, all different types of shots, you're knocking down from a specific spot, like whatever it is, I think if you put in the work, you're gonna see it eventually. Yeah. So I think you got to just stick with it, and then once you see a result, you'll be like, oh, maybe I can shoot. Yeah. Then it gets easier over time. Like, oh, well, it worked for me before, and then you start stacking it like that.
Small victories.
Yeah, small victories, celebrating the small victories. And one thing, like, I just noticed this before, it kind of came to my attention. You continue to have a growth mindset. You're like, you're not satisfied yet. I feel like you're on top of the world. I see your TikTok. I see your social media. You're everywhere. You're all over. And we just, you know, we talk about, okay, one day she's in this city and then she's in, you know, 1,000 miles away. And, you know, and today you're talking about your weaknesses before. You said, man, I got to work on this, and this, because I don't think I'm there yet. And it's like, I'm looking at you. I'm like, yo, you have everything. You know what I'm saying? But you're just continuing to, like, find things to work on, and because you're not satisfied yet.
Right.
It's like every time I talk to you, I feel like, yo, you're just scratching the surface. That's your mentality. Yeah, I'm doing this, and I'm going to get better at this, but I'm just scratching the surface because I'm still digging deep.
Right.
Talk about that a little bit, will you?
I think that also is just something that I've always had. Just always this deep belief in myself. And something that my grandpa said to me, this is, I think, a nugget that he gave me, because he was a really great coach. And he was also very hands-off with me. He was never one that was like, all right, go make 50 mic-ins. Like, he was never like that. But something that he always said to me, like, if you're at a game or something, like, can you see yourself playing with them? He'd tell me this when I was a kid. We're at, like, high school basketball game. You know, they look like superstars. Sure. And he's like, do you see yourself out there? And I'd be like, yeah. So now, like, when I see, like, the WNBA or...
So you're like, I see myself out
yeah.
there. Right.
Can you compete at that level? So then I'd be like, I think I can. And then you start doing things and you start making movements and adapting. And I think you become this person. Yeah. And I think the top gets higher the more that you climb. So there's always going to be next. There's always going to be more. But it's also important to be grateful for what you have. Yeah. You know, I wish this. I didn't wish specifically Globetrotters, but I wished this life before I was given it. Yes. And now I have it. It's just like, whoa. Sometimes I got to just sit back and be grateful. Yeah. There's so many kids that are in the gym. Think about how many gyms there are in the world. Yeah. There's so many kids out there that are like, I want to be a Globetrotter. Right. And I've been given this, Remember, it came from left field? Yep. Where did it come from?
Right, amazing.
So now I have been given this, and I'm like, all right, now what am I going to do with it? Like, let's go. So now I feel even more charged up.
I love it. So what's the next? You know, you're always chasing something, right?
Always.
So what is that next for you right now?
I think there's so many different avenues that we can go. Yeah. But it's also like locking in on certain things. And for me right now, I feel so passionate about basketball. Like more than ever almost. I'm like, why am I feeling like this? I just want to like work on my handle. I want to like just cook someone. And I just feel like
I love it.
I haven't like been really getting that as much where I'm like actually like just naturally expressing myself out there. And I just want to hoop right now. Like, I just want to be at the highest level and hoop and inspire people and be like, yo, that girl hoops, you know, she gets buckets. So I'm chasing that right now.
And you just said something about you're inspiring people, and it reminds me of like I went to see, you were in for like an hour or something. You know, you were in for like a day. You were in for like 12 hours or something. You said, yo, you want to see me? I'm going to be at the Pittston Library. And you had kind of told your story, and there was like 20 young girls asking for autographs and pictures and wearing your jersey. And just like, you could see when you're talking, they're just looking at you like, and you know you're inspiring them. You know, like you have had such an impact on their lives. I got to see that firsthand. I mean, I was sitting in the back, just just kind of watching this all happen. But I see you doing it all the time because I follow your social media religiously, and I see you're always at these schools, and like you see all these kids, and they're looking up to you, especially these young girls. Are like, yo, I can do this too. What is that like?
That's the best feeling in the world.
The best feeling in the world.
The best feeling.
I knew you were going to say that.
It is, yeah. It's a great feeling, and my message to them too is, you know, pursue your passion, because, you know, you can like art or something and you see such a great thing in me because I have such a strong passion for basketball, but your thing might be art or whatever it is. So I think it's really important to follow your particular passion, what you really love to do. And I'm grateful to be in the position where I can tell people to do that and they'll respect what I have to say.
So tell me this. So like with the Harlem Globetrotters, you are, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of 3 females that are in that circuit?
They actually just added more girls.
Oh, did they? Okay, I was going to say, like, talk about, like, obviously being, like, you know, the only female within that circuit amongst all guys, and is there, you know, that competitive nature, or what, do you feel doubted? Do you feel, you know, overlooked? Does that exist, or does it burn your fire even more? Like, talk about that.
It definitely burns my fire more. But I think, you know, it's hard in a sense because I feel like they always want to protect you. Like, they always want, you know, you get your shots here and, like, they just want you to look good all the time. But I want to get in the dirt. Like, I want to just get out there, put somebody on an island. Let's go. So that part I think is a little bit hard for me. But I think overall, like, it's cool being with the guys. They're they're cool. I'm on a really good team, and you know, we chop it up, we hang out, and they're really good guys.
That's good. What has been like, if there's a moment in your life, right? Obviously through high school, through college, you know, your professional ranks, has there been a moment that you could look at, like hindsight, and say that was a moment for me where like it switched or it flipped?
That's a great question.
Right?
I feel like there's been multiple.
Yeah. Is
Multiple.
there one bigger than the other? Or if you look back and say, hey, without that, I wouldn't be Mia today.
I don't think so. I just think it's at the core.
Yeah.
It's just who I am, which is, you know.
Yeah, that's good.
It's just what it is.
Right,
but
right.
yeah, I think it's, you know, there's been just jabs. Like it just takes a jab for me, and I'm like, all right,
no
now.
knockout punches.
Nah, just jabs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're at that time. We got a couple questions for you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for a great interview. This is like been super exciting. Like I love when you come in. I love the opportunity to see you and talk with you a little bit, and it's always fun. Now, we like to end each podcast with a couple little questions about the area. First one is, what is your favorite pizza
I knew
in
it.
this area?
That's why I'm smiling. I knew it. So there's so many great spots. So many. And it hurts me to have to pick.
Oh.
But I like Sabatini's.
Yep.
But I'm from Pittston.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
So
There we go.
we have to go with Tony's.
Okay.
Tony's.
All right.
All right.
Tony's Pizza.
Represent Tony's. Okay. If you were to write a book, what's the title of that book?
So I'm actually writing a children's book right now.
Oh, look at that.
Look at the sneak
We
peek.
just dropped
There we go.
We just dropped the bomb.
I know, yeah.
But I don't know the title yet.
Yeah.
But the story is about animals, and it's about perseverance. So it'll have something to do with that.
Yes.
I've found different ways to kind of like express how I feel and put it into animals and make it for kids, you know, to hopefully inspire them. Yeah.
That's cool. I like that.
Pretty cool.
Thank
I
you.
like that. If there's a motto or a saying that you live by, like, you know, we have get your mind right? Like, what is that saying for you?
Believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself. Simple. Just believe in yourself.
Because, like we said, people will doubt you.
Yep.
And they're not going to believe till you start doing it.
Right.
Which is just the truth. And it might be your mom. Like, it might be someone very close to you. And they just might not see it yet. So you have to become it. You have to believe it so deeply that you become it.
I love it. I love it. So, Mia, please let the listeners know how they can contact you. Leave all your things that we could connect with you, please.
Okay, so my social media, Instagram, TikTok, at WeABoliKid.
Let's go.
I'm a real one. I'm an OG. That's from AOL Instant Messenger.
AOL.
I've kept it all along.
They don't even know what that is.
They might.
Google it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Mia Hopkins World. And then my website is miahopkinsworld.com. You can find everything on there, from my merch to just contacting me and everything.
Now, real quick before we end, this merch, right? Like, talk a little bit about that. What's that all about?
So I actually, that came about when I was leaving Greece.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm coming home. I told you I had an injury. But for some reason, I had this very strong passion for starting a clothing line.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about clothing lines or how I get started or what's the name. Like, I had no idea what products, nothing. And I actually had a very spiritual experience. I went to a waterfall, and I felt like God was talking to me, and he told me that I'm a star.
Yeah.
Like, he had me looking at my tattoos, which are stars, and I'm just like, I've always been a star.
Yeah.
But it was such a profound moment in my life that
Clicked.
I just knew. I knew the name was going to be Starmia.
Yep.
I played around with it a little bit with like prefixes and suffixes, and it just came about. I'm like, Starmia, one word, and it flows. Like, even if you're in another country, it's Starmia. Like, that's a flowing word.
Yes.
So I'm like, all right, let's go. And then the slogan is unveil the truth, which means to uncover any type of limitation that comes your way, which is what we just talked about.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's amazing. And they can find that merch. Say it again.
MiaHopkinsWorld.com.
There it is. Make sure you go cop some merch of Mia. Mia, this was awesome.
Thank you.
Love having you. Again, this is 2 Down, 1 Over podcast. I'm Josh Mason. This is Matt Flanagan. And we will see you guys at the next episode. Peace.